Who would have thought that the man standing quietly in the courtroom that morning, dressed in a worn-out suit with tired eyes, carried a past so extraordinary it could turn the entire trial upside down. At first glance, he looked like just another struggling single father, a veteran trying to make ends meet, fighting for custody of his young daughter. But what nobody in that room knew, not even the female judge who mocked him with her sharp words, was that this man once walked the halls of justice as one of the most brilliant attorneys the city had ever seen. The courtroom was packed that day. His opponent, a wealthy ex-wife with a team of high-priced lawyers, sat smugly at her table. She was determined to take full custody of their little girl, believing the father had nothing to offer. He couldn't afford a lawyer, couldn't afford polished arguments, and came across as worn down by life itself. The female judge glanced at him with disdain, whispering under her breath about how irresponsible it was for a man to show up unprepared in such a serious case. Then, in open court, she mocked him. "Mr. Turner," she said with a cold smile, "do you even understand the gravity of the situation? This isn't a battlefield, this is a court of law. If you continue like this, your daughter deserves better." The words pierced him like bullets. The room chuckled, his ex-wife smirked, and for a moment, the father's shoulders dropped in defeat. But then, something shifted. He looked across the room at his daughter sitting in the gallery, her small hands clasped tightly together, her big eyes silently begging him not to give up. In that instant, the years he had tried to bury, the years of fighting in courtrooms instead of war zones, came rushing back. He had been more than just a soldier. Long before deployments and scars, he had been a genius litigator, a man whose cross-examinations once left entire juries breathless. He had walked away from that life to serve his country, and later, to raise his daughter alone after tragedy struck. But now, for her, he was ready to bring it all back. When the opposing attorney rose with a polished opening statement filled with arrogance, Turner quietly scribbled notes. The judge rolled her eyes, clearly expecting him to fumble. But when his turn came, he stood tall. His voice, calm yet commanding, filled the room. He spoke of law not like a novice but like a master craftsman who understood every thread of it. He began to dismantle the arguments with surgical precision, weaving in precedent cases, exposing contradictions, and even pointing out procedural errors that no one else had noticed. The room went silent. The opposing counsel stumbled, trying to recover, but Turner's momentum only grew. His words carried not just legal weight but the fire of a father who had fought battles far greater than this. The judge, at first smirking, now leaned forward, her pen frozen in midair. She couldn't hide her surprise. She began looking at him differently, realizing this man was no ordinary desperate father. His arguments were crisp, his knowledge encyclopedic, his delivery powerful yet humble. By the time he called his ex-wife to the stand and began questioning her, the tide had turned completely. With gentle but relentless precision, he revealed her dishonesty, her neglect, and her motivations rooted in money, not love. Every word he spoke made it clearer: the little girl deserved her father. As the truth unfolded, the courtroom shifted. The ex-wife's attorneys exchanged nervous glances. The spectators, who had pitied him moments earlier, now whispered in awe. And the judge, once mocking him, sat in silence, clearly shaken. She finally asked him, "Mr. Turner, where did you learn to argue law at this level?" He looked at his daughter, then back at the judge, and said simply, "Before I was a soldier, Your Honor, I was an attorney. And I swore never to fight again. But for my daughter, I will always fight." The final ruling came hours later. Full custody was granted to him. The judge's voice trembled slightly as she acknowledged that she had misjudged him, not just as a man but as a father. His daughter ran into his arms, tears streaming down her face, whispering, "Daddy, you did it." The courtroom erupted in quiet applause, something rare in such a solemn place. Even his opponents, though bitter in defeat, couldn't deny the brilliance they had witnessed. As they walked out into the sunlight, father and daughter hand in hand, there was a powerful lesson left behind in that courtroom. Never judge someone by their scars, their silence, or their weary appearance. You never know what fire they still carry inside, what past they've lived, or what genius hides beneath the surface. The female judge, who once mocked him, was the first to stand when he left, an unspoken gesture of respect. And that, my friends, is why you should never underestimate the quiet ones, the humble ones, the broken-looking ones. Because sometimes, they are the strongest of us all. If this story moved you, if it gave you hope, then take a moment, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder of the power of resilience, love, and hidden strength. Because stories like these are not just stories, they're reminders of the greatness inside ordinary people.